Hello, I'm Raul Luis, welcoming you to my world, Birria World. Join me now, let's go. Today, I am going to show you how we make traditional birria here at Chalio's. At the same time, I'm going to tell you a little story. I learned to make birria from my father, whose nickname the restaurants were named after. Follow me into one of our LA restaurants and I'll show you how we make our traditional style of birria, which has people lined up outside our restaurants every week, waiting to come in and enjoy a little taste of home in Mexico. Welcome and follow me. Making birria the right way, the traditional way, starts the night before. But before we get into it, let me give you a little background. All this started way back in the 1960s. My dad came from a family of birrieros for a small town, and they would make it for special occasions, special events, and they sold it in a small place called Mercado. They had a small table that would seat 5 people. His sales were primarily on the weekends, and during the week he struggled. So he decided to come to the U.S. like many other immigrants had under the Bracero program. There was a line of people and they're vetting the braceros, getting them ready to come into the U.S. and send them to different sites so they can do all the cropping in the fields. And they asked, does anybody know how to cook? Well, my dad's there. He puts his hand up and says, I know how to cook. I know how to make birria. They pulled him aside and says, come on, you're coming with us. The chef took him under his wing. He was making the birria. He realized that only the immigrants were eating the birria, not the managers or the people who were in charge of the crops there. So he says, why is this? And the chef pulled him over and says, oh, because you got to marinate your meat. The meat was white. It wasn't red. The chef helped him tweak his recipe. He tweaked the recipe as well and added other condiments and stuff. And they even enjoyed it themselves. So based on that recipe that was in part formulated by what my father learned by being a chef during the Bracero program, let's begin by creating the special red sauce that is based on chilies and garlic. Here's how we do it. We start by roasting the chilies and garlic.
After we roast the chili and the garlics, we blend it. Put water in. We put the roasted chili along with the garlic in there. Put it in there. And then we add a couple of bay leaves. Why bay leaves? Bay leaves, we suspect, we think, not scientifically proven, but that it helps dissipate the gaminess of the animal when you get into the marinade. So just put like 2-3 leaves in there just to give it the flavor. A tablespoon of black pepper. Right there. Shove it all down. Add some more water. And this is our marinade, our adobe. Put it in there and then we send it off to the blender. And that's the marinade that gets put on the meat.
Preparing the meat, which is traditionally goat, is something that starts the day before.
The night before, what we do is we have to marinate the meat. That sauce that we put all over it, and what this does is overnight, all the flavors and textures get into the meat, and it absorbs it. As it's absorbing it, you gotta make sure you cover every spot. They give it the red look. I think I had told you guys before about the meat being white. Before, what they would do is they would just salt it and put it dig a hole and put it in there. And then when it would cook, it would be white. While with it being red, it's more appealing. It's easier on the eyes, and people tend to eat with their eyes. There you go. This is the benecillo. Look at that. Whoa, big piece. You gotta be careful because there's sharp edges, and you'll cut yourself. After it cooks, it's gonna cut down to at least half the size, probably more than half. So we put the whole leg in there. That's why it takes a long cooking process. 8, sometimes 9 hours, at times even 10. What I didn't mention was there's another part of the leg that it's a shoulder. That one's the meat's softer. The hind leg is thicker, drier, very little less. Just like my dad said. Everything's measured, portion control. What we do with this after it's done should be very little. We just pour it on top just to let it soak in. And then we let it sit for about 24 to 48 hours. And then we cook it. We steep it after that. We don't put too much salt because there's people who have problems with salt. So people who want salt, they can add it to the table. So we put as little as possible just to get by.
So that's how my dad taught us how to prepare the meat before cooking it overnight. But going back to his story, after he completed his stint as a cook, he then moved into Los Angeles in the early 70s, and he was working at a tanning company, and he would stay next to this newspaper stand. They would sell La Opinión, which is a Spanish-speaking paper there. And back then, it wasn't very acceptable to speak Spanish, so you had to be careful and not speak in front of other people. But at that stand, everybody could speak Spanish freely, and the guy who was there asked him, well, what do you do? Tell me your story. So he told him, I'm a birrero, I make birria. He says, oh, perfect. He says, there's a lot of people that come here that are from Mexico who are looking for that dish. He says, would you mind making some on the weekends? And sure enough, that's how he started cooking on the weekends for special occasions. My dad was a hustler. He would work during the week at the tanning company, and on the weekends, he would always be cooking. Then something unexpected happened, and he got laid off from his job at the tanning company. So he had to figure out what he was going to do. He had to do something because there wasn't enough income with just the cooking. We were a large family of 8. Before I tell you how he solved this challenge in his life, let's get back to our birria, which we left cooking overnight. So after a long process of 7-8 hours, we come in and it should be ready by now. We take the top off. You can see it's steaming. And then we do a test. It's an old-fashioned test. All you do is get your finger and see if it goes through, if it pierces through. As you can see there, the skin came off, the meat's falling off the bones. That means it's ready to go. Okay? When you're gonna take it out, there's different cuts, so you gotta be careful. What we use is we gotta use these tongs to start taking it out and placing it on our serving tray. And we use bread pans, and we put that on there. However, I'm gonna tell you a little story that I learned when I was young. There was a cook there who was using the thongs, and I says, what are you using thongs for? You know thongs? I would come out, use my 2 hands. It was hot, it's steam. This is very hot to temperature. You get it, and then you would place it here on our serving tray. I told him, why are you using the thongs? He says, oh, because it's hot. I says, use your hands. No. Fast forward 15 years later, when I'm getting the hot meat, and most cooks might have tested this, so you guys, those who are coming into the season of cooking and stuff, get used to using your tongs, because eventually what happens is you start getting shocks in your hands because you get the hot meat, the hot foods, and you use it with your bare hands. So wear the gloves and use the tongs. It'll help you out in the long run. So here's the neck bone. And usually what we do is when we start taking it out, we got to separate it so that when it goes to the kitchen line and people are asked for certain cuts, then they have to know where it's at on the tray. So we split it up on the tray using the different types of cuts. You gotta be very careful because as you can see, it's falling apart. Sometimes you gotta use your hands, but don't do that at home, guys, because it's not. There you go. It's gonna fall apart anyway. I'm just showing you guys, not being as careful as I should be, but this is like considered like the French rack. This is what people pay top dollar for at the market. Do you guys ever buy lamb? And here's the French fries, that's like $18 a pound. I'm using my hands, but I shouldn't do it, but I'll do it anyways, because as you can see, it's literally falling apart. It's gonna come apart. This is the neck bone here. See that? The neck bone comes apart, as you can see. This is the best cut of the birria because the neck on the animal is always moving his neck. Very little fat, very soft. Look at that. I mean, it's dirty, coming apart. See that? Wow, it's hot too. So we'll start taking all the light meat, like this is neck with neck, and we start stacking it up. And it becomes a science, kind of like when you're building a house. If you don't build it right from the foundation, it's gonna fall off. So you gotta find the loose spots because sometimes you run. Whoa, see that? Look at that, guys. Falling apart. Same thing here, this is the rib. See that? With the muscle. So everything has to be stacked up separately. That way when it gets, like I mentioned earlier, it gets to the cook line, they're able to separate it. Here it is. This is the rib. See that? And put your finger through there. It goes right through. I can take it apart just for demonstration purposes. But you can do that at home, guys.
So we got two, and then what we usually do when we cook here, we cook different batches. So as soon as this comes out, we put the next batch. It takes another 8 hours, and we cook it like that all weekend, so we can get fresh product for our customers. And then what we do is we take this and we'll put it in the oven, and it'll get like a nice little toast to it, nice and crispy. So when you bite into it, it's kind of crispy at the outside and very soft on the inside. So I'm gonna take this one apart so you can see. Yeah. Look at that. Off the bone. This usually when we cook the stuff, most of the bones are on top. On the bottom is the boneless, the legs, because the legs are thicker, much more protein on them, and they require more cooking process. So that's right directly to the steam. So they cook there. The neck is also challenging. Here it is. Look at this neck. So for those of you guys who've never had birria, I suggest you eat the neck bone. That's the best part, the most tender, like I mentioned earlier. The flavor is always in the bone. Just look at that. Just rips apart. If it doesn't rip apart, that means it needs more cooking process.
So now, getting back to how my dad solved his financial problems when he lost his job at the tanning company.
Now he was forced to look for other avenues. How are we going to sell food? And he tells a story that he had $27. He had just bought a house. It was 1982. He didn't have a job. So what am I going to do? And there was a parade on First Street. I didn't know what was going on. I just thought the adults were talking and they were stressed out. What are we gonna do? My dad went to the back then there was a Safeway. He went to Safeway and bought fruit. He got the fruit, he put it in cups, and he cut it up, and then he says, okay guys, go to the parade. He gave us this cup of fruit. We didn't even get to where the parade was at. As people were walking to the parade, we began selling the cups for $2, whatever it was, $2, $3. We sold out. We went back and bought some more fruit and started selling that again. And I guess we made enough money to pay for the rent or whatever expenses he had. I must have been, 12 years old at that time. You know, that was the beginning of the entrepreneurship. Like, whoa, my dad, I guess something clicked and said, you know what? I gotta do this on a regular basis. I know how to cook birria. So he said, you know what? I'm gonna start selling birria out of the home now. Not only for special occasions, but now I'm gonna invite people to come eat at our house. He set up a couple of tables, and you know, the word of mouth started getting around. People would come to the house, they would eat outside, there was trees. I didn't realize that. Now I look back and say, wow, that was a beautiful setting. It was a garden setting, real quiet, it was cool, and you know, like family type environment. The house that we lived on was on Brooklyn Avenue, which is now Cesar Chavez. And you couldn't tell what house was the one that sold the birria where we were at, because we were, like I said, there was a house in the front, a garage, a house way in the back. It was like a third yard in the back. So what we did is my dad put a cactus in the front yard on top of a column. So anybody that came, saw the cactus, they knew that's where they sold the birria. So the directions was go to the house with the cactus on it. So people were walking and they, where's the cactus? Oh, there's a cactus. That was their directions. That was our billboard. That was our sign. That was how people knew where to go. My dad found a used stove, put the stove inside the garage, and we would start making tortillas, warming the food in the oven. We would put 2 tables inside. However, that room would get so hot. Out of the blues, this guy who was an inspector for the county at the time, he comes by and he looks at what we're doing, and he said, I got a hood. I'll give you guys a hood. You install it, and we don't know what a hood was. There was an extractor, you turned it on, and it would take the hot air out. That helps us tremendously.
And that's how our family business started, out of our home with all hands on deck. But getting back to our traditional birria preparation, let me show you some of the parts that have now cooked overnight and what I consider to be the best ones if you are new to this traditional dish that we specialize in.
So this is the most popular, the most requested cut from the birria is the leg. It's all meat. I'm gonna tear it apart right now so you can see look at that. All meat, no grizzle, very little fat. And that's the most requested meat because people don't wanna bother with the bones, bone ends, little spurs of bone sometimes. It's good, but not my favorite cut. One was the birria and the other was a cabeza. And there's cabeza, and then you top it up with the cabeza on top. You get the cabeza, what you do is you stick your finger in. If it goes through, it's ready to go. See that? Very soft, real soft. Very soft. test it. Good to go.
So how do we go from a home-based business to where we are today? The home venture there at the house, we did it for about 8 to 9 years. It grew and it was always busy. Early in the morning, 6, 7 o'clock till about 2 in the afternoon until we sold out. Eventually we had to figure out what are we gonna do because there wasn't any more room. Got like 2 visits. One was by the sheriff's department. The neighbors called the sheriffs. The neighbors complained there was no parking in the streets. So we had 2 of those visits where the sheriffs came in because we were selling food. And they walked into the place and said, hey, what's going on here? This is a business. Well, all the customers that were there said, no, this is a party. Come on in. We'll give you food. And the cops, they go into the room, they look around. My sister was smart enough, got the money stashed, threw it to the side, and the cops came in, they saw nothing. It's okay, party good. The next time it was the health inspector came by. They were looking and stuff. Says, no, we're getting ready for cooking for, that was our excuse, cooking for a party. But we knew now, you know what, we can't do this anymore. One day my dad's walking down First Street and there's this restaurant and it used to be called La Posta. The guy says, I'll sell you the restaurant. My dad said, I don't have any money. I don't have money to pay for the restaurant. So my dad told my mother, you know what, they offered me this restaurant up on First Street. But my dad said, but I can't afford it. My mom said, oh, guess what? All the time that you've been working, I've been putting money away and saving it. I always tell the story that in my bed, when I go to sleep, there was always a lump. And I told my mom, this bed's no good. Something's wrong with it. She never told me. She was a seamstress. So she would put her little stash of money in there and she sewed it up, made it look like there was nothing there, but I can feel it. Well, luckily, my mom did that. She had that money saved and she was able to tell my dad, you know what, let's go buy the restaurant. We had enough money. So I remember the first day we were hustling. We put all the stuff in the restaurant, the stoves, the stuff. People came running to us. They wanted to buy the birria. And that marked the start of an entirely new chapter of adventures for us. There are countless stories I can share. I look forward to telling them in our upcoming videos, where we'll dive deeper into the diverse and rich world of birria.
So as we began growing and our business started to expand and started to take off, we started cooking the birria and we would stack it up. And each one of these trays could weigh up to about 150 pounds. In doing so, we would put them in ovens, but it wasn't enough capacity. So we went one time to this pizza joint to go have pizza, and we saw pizza ovens. Wow, that'll work for us. So we went out and bought a pizza oven. We said, what do you guys need a pizza oven for? It's a Mexican restaurant. We didn't want to tell what it was for, but that's what we do. So what we do is we get these in here, we open this up, and then we stack them in here. They fit 2 to the side, and you always need 2 people to be able to put it because it's heavy. You put it in, and for those of you pizza lovers who like little toasty bread, that's what this does. It gives it that extra different flavor, different texture. And we leave it until it's ready to cook. It gets a little bit crispy on the outside and very soft on the inside. So this is one of the most popular cuts that they request. It's called, we call it maciza, which is boneless. La pierna, it's a pierna, the leg of the lamb or the goat. And usually what we do is as you can see here, we just pull the bone out. See that? Wow. The steam still. No meat left. That's how soft it is. Take that out. You get this. We cut it. We don't chop it. It's gonna be in big chunks. That's the key. Big chunks. Or when I was a kid, when I was first starting, I would chop it up like a taco. My dad would yell at me. So you get it and just don't use your hands, but I'm doing it now. Like that one cook one told me. You put that on there, and that's all maciza. Boneless. The next piece is the ribs. Probably one of the second most popular dishes. Everybody wants ribs, baby back ribs. People probably think about that when they order this. But the meat is very soft, but there's also a slight thin membrane, which is a little stretchy. People enjoy that. So when you get this, you got to cut it. You use a cleaver, and you cut the usually bone spurs and you dig. I'm using a knife, so. You get this. As you can see, it falls apart as well. You put it on there. Put the meat on there. Here you go. That's the costillas. This is the neck bone. This is my favorite. This is what my first choice anytime I go anywhere, either my place or I go eat somewhere else and I'm out of town. I'll go eat at other places. I'll stop by and I'll ask them for the neck meat. Sometimes they say, oh, you know what you're talking about. Sometimes you go to places that people don't know the cuts. So I know the cuts. So you get this and it falls apart. As you can see, there's different divisions. So what we usually do is use a cleaver, but sometimes it's not necessary because it creates bone spurs. Here it is right there, see that? And the bone under there. This would be the neck bone. As you can see, also known as the French rack. If you guys go buy lamb, it's called the French rack. As you can see there, all the bones in there, all the flavors all on the bones, stainless steel. So sometimes when the customers come in, you tell them all the different cuts they have. They don't know where to start. What do I eat? I want to try them all. So what we do is we call revuelta. And the revuelta is we basically take a little bit of everything. We'll take the maciza, which is all meat. We'll take a little bit of the pancillo. We'll take a piece of the neck bone, and we'll give them a piece of ribs as well. And that's our revuelta. That's a mix of all the meats.
And of course, let's not forget that we combine those delicious pieces of birria meat with our handmade tortillas.
After a long day of working, the whole process of the beginning till the end, after it's all served out and ready to go home, we open the beer the old-fashioned way. We get a spoon or a knife, and pop it. Cheers.
I'm actually kind of fortunate because I was able to work under pressure with my brothers, my sisters, my mom, my dad, some uncles. We got to know who we really were during under pressure because we would yell at each other. There was stuff that was said between us that wasn't very nice, but that's what helps us grow because we were able to talk to each other that way. We were able to say stuff to one another, and it was during those pressure moments. And then we had to be smiling. We were upset because we talked to or yelled at somebody, and we do that. And I look back and I look at all these different vendors. Sometimes I drive around the neighborhood here in East LA, and I see people posting up their stand in their house. So I remember that was us. That was us. Stay tuned for more, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell to keep up with our birria journey.